Movie to me. It was at a 4th of July barbecue. Mutual friends, loud music, beer coolers, and a half-cooked tray of burgers. She was wearing this red sundress with white sneakers and had her hair pulled back like she hadn't tried at all, but still looked completely put together. I was manning the grill, mostly because I was avoiding small talk, and she walked up and told me I was burning everything. I laughed, handed her the tongs, and told her to do it better. She did. That was the start. We talked the rest of the afternoon, and by the time the fireworks were going off, we were sitting on the hood of her friend's car, trading stories like we'd known each other for years. She had a kind of energy that made you lean in, not loud, but always pulling you closer. I think what struck me most about her was how easy everything felt with her. No games, just connection. A few days later, we went on our first real date. Burgers and milkshakes at a diner halfway between our apartments. It wasn't fancy, but it was us. We took things slow, but not too slow. Within a year, we'd moved in together. 2 years later, we got married in a simple ceremony on the beach with just our close friends and family. I still remember the way she smiled at me during our vows, like I was the only thing in the world. Our life together wasn't extravagant, but it was ours. We bought a modest 2-story in a quiet neighborhood. I worked in IT, mostly from home, while Emily split her time between a part-time retail job and a few freelance projects. She loved switching things up. One month it was photography, the next she was making candles or sketching things late into the night. I never minded. She brought color to our world, and I grounded us when things felt too scattered. We made a good team. Mornings were slow and comfortable. Coffee together on the back deck when the weather allowed. Grocery runs that turned into lunch dates, and weekend movie marathons that somehow never included the same genre twice. She had a knack for making the ordinary feel like something worth remembering. There was laughter in our home. Stories. Shared playlists. Handwritten notes left in lunch bags or taped to the bathroom mirror. We talked about traveling more, maybe starting a family in a year or two. But for the moment, we were content. Solid. And at that point in my life, I genuinely believed we had everything we needed. If there was one thing Emily and I had, it was rhythm. We didn't always agree on everything. Who does? But when it came to the life we built, we moved in sync. She brought spontaneity, creativity, and this subtle kind of charm that made everything feel just a little brighter. I brought structure, steady income, a calendar that always knew what bills were due and when the gutters needed cleaning. We made it work, and honestly, we made it look easy. Our home felt lived in from day one. Not showroom perfect, not chaotic either, just full of personality. Emily loved decorating, and it showed. Every room had something handmade. A painting, a thrifted piece of furniture she'd refinished, or some odd little sculpture she'd picked up and insisted would grow on me. It always did. She had a way of seeing potential in things, in people, in places. I guess that's what I loved most about her. She kept the house warm, not just in the aesthetic sense, but in the way it felt when you walked through the front door. Candles lit, soft music playing from her phone somewhere, a different scent for each season. She baked sometimes, though not often, but when she did, she'd leave me notes beside the plate. One for now, one for after you tell me how good it was. That sort of thing. Work was stable for both of us. I had a consistent routine with my IT job, calls, emails, the occasional late night, but nothing overwhelming. Emily's part-time gig at the boutique was more about enjoyment than income, and she loved the social aspect. She'd come home talking about new arrivals, quirky customers, outfit pairings I didn't fully understand, but nodded along with anyway. I liked hearing her talk. She had a voice that could make even the mundane feel vivid. Our social life was active but low-key. A few close couple friends, some game nights, the occasional backyard barbecue. Emily had a core group of girlfriends she was especially close to, and I liked that she had her own world. We weren't attached at the hip. We had space, and we trusted each other. Vacations were modest, but meaningful. Long weekends at cabins. Drives up the coast. That time we got rained out in the mountains, but ended up playing cards in a tent all night. Still one of my favorite memories. We didn't need much. Just time, and each other. At least, that's what I thought. But back then, I didn't question anything. I had no reason to. Emily was loving, present, and full of life. And to me, that life felt safe. Like we were exactly where we were supposed to be. Looking back, what stands out most about those years with Emily wasn't just the big moments. It was the way we fit into the everyday. Mornings that started with her in an oversized hoodie, hair in a mess, humming while she made breakfast. Evenings spent cooking together, half the time laughing, half the time arguing over how much garlic is too much. Weekends when we'd both sleep in too late, then wander the farmer's market with no real plan. There was something so comforting in those routines. So familiar. We weren't flashy. There was no need to impress each other anymore. That, to me, was a kind of love I hadn't had before. Comfort without complacency. It's easy to get lazy in a long-term relationship, but we kept things light. We joked constantly. Inside jokes filled the space between chores, between errands, between the noise of the day. Even on our off days, we knew how to fall back into rhythm. Emily's laugh could fill a room. Sometimes too loud, sometimes at the wrong moment, but always genuine. She had this gift for making friends wherever she went. Waitresses, strangers in the checkout line, neighbors we barely knew. She could talk to anyone, and people gravitated toward her. I loved watching that happen. Watching her shine. We had dreams, sure. A few still in the someday category. Travel abroad. Maybe open a little cafe/art studio for her. A second car that didn't sound like it was dying every time it hit 40 miles per hour. Kids? That was always a bit fluid. Some months we talked about it like it was around the corner. Other months we agreed we liked things just the two of us. There was no pressure. Just the comfort of knowing we were figuring it out together. From the outside, and honestly, from the inside too, our life probably looked uneventful. Stable. Happy. And it was for a long time. At least, that's what I believed. There was no drama. No big arguments. No betrayals. Just a home, a woman I loved, and a life we were building one normal day at a time. The kind of life you don't question. Until you have to. It started like any other Tuesday evening. I was in the kitchen cleaning up after dinner. Emily had made her favorite stir-fry and managed, as always, to use every pan we owned. She came in wearing that soft hoodie she always stole from me, leaned against the counter with her wine glass, and said, almost casually, "The girls and I are thinking about doing a trip." I looked up, half laughing. "What kind of trip?" "Like a real vacation," she said. "Somewhere warm. Mexico, maybe. A resort. We haven't done anything just us in ages, and everyone's losing their minds with work and life. I could really use a break." She said it with that familiar tilt of her head, that half grin she used when she was testing the waters, but already knew I'd say yes. And she wasn't wrong. It had been a long winter, and she had been juggling a lot. Her shifts at the boutique, helping out her mom more than usual, the endless string of family obligations that always seemed to land on her plate. She looked tired, restless. "How long are you thinking?" I asked, rinsing a dish. "Just a week. Maybe 5 or 6 days. Flights are cheap if we book now. I can cover most of it. I just might need a little help with the hotel if we go all-inclusive." She hesitated a beat, then added, "Would that be okay?" I didn't even flinch. "Of course it's okay. I'll move some stuff around and send you the money tomorrow." She lit up, walked around the counter, wrapped her arms around me, kissed me on the cheek. "You're the best." "Seriously," I laughed. "Just bring me back something tacky and touristy." She promised she would, then drifted back into the living room, already scrolling through photos of sandy beaches and frozen cocktails. I stood there at the sink for a moment longer, watching her. She looked happy, excited, and I was glad. Honestly, we'd always given each other space. I went on the occasional fishing trip or weekend with college buddies. She had her girls' nights and the odd retreat with her yoga friends. Trust wasn't something I ever questioned in our marriage. We didn't micromanage each other. That was one of the things I appreciated most about us. So when she booked the trip a few days later, I didn't give it a second thought. She packed her bags with her usual chaotic flair, asking for help finding swimsuits and charging cables, throwing sandals in at the last minute while reminding me to water her plants. The morning she left, I kissed her goodbye at the door, carried her suitcase to the Uber, and waved as she drove off. I didn't know it then, but that moment would split my life into before and after. Emily sent a picture from the airport. Her in big sunglasses, holding a coffee, captioned, "Free at last, smiling face with sunglasses airplane." I texted back something sarcastic and sweet, "Don't party too hard without me." She replied with a string of emojis and "Miss you already." I smiled, put my phone down, and tried to settle into the week. But something felt off. Not anything dramatic. Just little things that piled up in quiet ways. For one, she barely called. We'd agreed to keep in touch while she was gone. Nothing clingy, just check-ins, morning texts, the occasional call at night. But after that first airport photo, the communication tapered off fast. I'd text something casual in the afternoon, "How's the beach?" Or, "You guys getting okay?" And maybe get a reply a few hours later, sometimes not at all. When she did respond, it was vague. "So much fun. Wi-Fi's bad here. I'll call later." But the call never came. Or it came way later, and only lasted a few minutes. Background noise always loud, music, chatter, voices I couldn't place. She'd say things like, "I can't really talk right now, we're heading out," or, "I'll call you when we're back at the hotel," but most of the time, she didn't. I didn't want to overthink it. I told myself, she's with her friends, she's relaxing, she deserves this. No one wants to be glued to their phone on vacation. But I couldn't shake this feeling that I was being handled. Like she was keeping me on the line just enough to make sure I didn't ask questions. The photos she posted on social media didn't help. They were different than what she used to share. Less group pics, more solo shots, her in a bikini on a balcony, her with a drink by the pool, her dancing in a club under flashing lights. Always smiling, always living her best life, as she put it. She never tagged anyone, never showed who she was with. A few times, I caught myself wondering who was taking those pictures of her. It wasn't jealousy. It was something deeper. A kind of slow, dull ache in the gut that said, "You're not part of this. Not really. Not like you used to be." I didn't call her out. I didn't want to sound insecure or paranoid. But every day that passed, I felt the silence stretch a little longer, like a thread pulling tighter. By the time the week was half over, I stopped looking at my phone expecting her name to pop up. And that was the part that got me. It wasn't that I didn't trust her. It's that, for the first time, I wasn't sure if I should. By day 4 of her trip, I had stopped checking my phone first thing in the morning. Not because I was angry, but because I was tired of hoping. The early excitement in her messages had dwindled into dry, routine check-ins. No details. No warmth. Just enough to keep the line from going cold. She sent me a photo of the sunset from the beach one evening. It was beautiful orange sky over dark water, silhouettes of palm trees. But there was something about it that felt impersonal. Like it could have come from anywhere, from anyone. A stock photo wrapped in a casual, "Wish you were here" red heart. I didn't reply right away. I stared at the image for a long time, wondering why it didn't feel like it came from her. Or maybe wondering why it didn't feel like it was meant for me. The kids from next door came by that night selling fundraiser chocolate, and I bought 5 bars, just for something to do. I spent most of the evening cleaning a kitchen that was already clean, catching myself glancing at the clock. 9, 10, 11, still nothing. Around midnight, she finally texted, "Long night out. Sorry, totally lost track of time. Talk tomorrow." That was the rhythm now. Short texts. Apologies. Vague updates about the girls, and so much going on. I didn't know who she was with anymore. The names she used to mention didn't come up. I didn't see any of them in photos. Just her. Always her. I remember waking up one morning and wondering, not for the first time, why she hadn't once said she missed me. Not really. Not in a way that felt real. "No, I can't wait to come home. No, wish I could hug you." Just travel-sized affection, carefully measured out. My buddy Dave came over that afternoon. We watched a game, drank a couple beers. He didn't ask about Emily until I brought it up. "She's having a great time, I think," I said. "Doesn't call much." Dave raised an eyebrow but didn't say what he was thinking. I appreciated that. I wasn't ready to say it out loud either. That night, I scrolled through our texts, back to the first days of the trip. I reread everything, trying to convince myself it was all normal. She was just busy. She was unwinding. She needed a break. But deep down, I felt it. That something was slipping through my fingers. That the person on the other end of those messages wasn't the same woman who used to fall asleep with her head on my chest, who used to send me voice notes just to say she missed the sound of my voice. Now, she barely remembered to say goodnight. And I didn't know whether to be worried or to start bracing for something worse. By the time her return flight was a day away, I'd stopped pretending this trip was normal. I still hadn't said anything, hadn't accused, hadn't even hinted at how hollow her messages had become. But inside, I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the ground beneath me to finally give way. There was a sharpness to my thoughts that hadn't been there before. Not rage, not jealousy, just this dull ache that came from looking too long at something you loved and realizing it no longer looked back at you the same way. That morning, I got a text from her at 11:47 a.m. Half a sentence, no punctuation. Crazy night, lol, we're all dead today, and nothing else. No photo. No call. Just silence. And that silence? It had started to feel like a wall. I could almost hear it when I walked through the house. Like the echo of something missing. I caught myself watching old videos of us that night. I don't know why. Maybe I was looking for proof that I wasn't imagining it. That the way she used to light up around me wasn't just in my head. There was one clip I kept replaying. Her birthday 2 years ago, when I surprised her with a weekend trip to Asheville. The way she smiled when she opened the envelope. The way she threw her arms around me, laughing. It was real. I know it was real. But the more I watched it, the more it felt like a memory that didn't belong to the version of her who'd gone on this trip. She hadn't FaceTimed once. Not even a goodnight call. She used to be all about connection, sharing every meal, every funny story. Now it felt like I was being managed, not missed. That night, I sat in our bedroom, staring at the suitcase she'd left half unpacked in the corner before she left. It was open, forgotten in the rush to get out the door, and for a brief second, I considered digging through it. Not to snoop, just to see if there was anything in there, anything at all, that would remind me who she was. But I didn't. Not because I trusted her at that point, but because I didn't want to see something I couldn't unsee. I went to bed alone again, the silence heavier than ever, and I couldn't stop asking myself, if I called her right now, would she even pick up? I didn't call. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling more like a stranger in my own marriage than I ever had before. I didn't know it yet, but the answer was coming, and it would hit harder than I ever expected. It was the night before Emily was set to come home. I was sitting on the couch, TV on but not watching, phone in my hand but not texting. Just waiting, really. I wasn't sure for what. Maybe for her to call, maybe for me to finally say something. But I didn't expect the screen to light up with a name I barely recognized, Sabrina. She was one of Emily's friends from way back, not someone I was close with. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something about it made me answer. Hey, I said, trying not to sound confused. Everything okay? There was a long pause on the other end. Then, I wasn't sure if I should do this, but I can't sit on it anymore. I sat forward. Do what? Her voice was flat. Tired. Emily's been cheating on you. This whole trip? She's not with who she says she's with. I didn't respond. I couldn't. It was like hearing your own name in a nightmare. Everything goes cold, but you're still trying to wake up. I thought maybe it was just a fling, she went on. But she's been like this before. I didn't think she'd do it to you. Still, I didn't speak. I have proof, she said. I figured you wouldn't believe me otherwise. A minute later, my phone buzzed again. A video. I hesitated. My hands didn't want to open it. My brain screamed not to. But my thumb moved anyway. It was short. No more than 20 seconds. Grainy. Loud. But clear enough. Emily, unmistakably her, pressed against someone else in a club or a hotel room. Kissing him like she hadn't kissed me in months. Laughing, wild and reckless. Like I didn't exist. I watched it once. Then again. And again. I didn't need a longer video. I didn't need context. It was all there, in her body language. In the ease with which she'd become someone I didn't recognize. I set the phone down. Sabrina messaged again, I'm sorry. I didn't know how else to tell you. I didn't respond. What was there to say? It was over. The guessing. The hoping. The wondering if I was just being paranoid. Everything I tried to ignore for the past week had just slammed into me like a freight train. Emily wasn't the woman I thought I married. She was coming home tomorrow, and I was done waiting. It was the night before Emily was set to come home. I was sitting on the couch, TV on but not watching, phone in my hand but not texting. Just waiting, really. I wasn't sure for what. Maybe for her to call, maybe for me to finally say something. But I didn't expect the screen to light up with a name I barely recognized, Sabrina. She was one of Emily's friends from way back, not someone I was close with. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something about it made me answer. Hey, I said, trying not to sound confused. Everything okay? There was a long pause on the other end. Then, I wasn't sure if I should do this, but I can't sit on it anymore. I sat forward. Do what? Her voice was flat. Tired. Emily's been cheating on you. This whole trip? She's not with who she says she's with. I didn't respond. I couldn't. It was like hearing your own name in a nightmare. Everything goes cold, but you're still trying to wake up. I thought maybe it was just a fling, she went on. But she's been like this before. I didn't think she'd do it to you. Still, I didn't speak. I have proof, she said. I figured you wouldn't believe me otherwise. A minute later, my phone buzzed again. A video. I hesitated. My hands didn't want to open it. My brain screamed not to. But my thumb moved anyway. It was short, no more than 20 seconds. Grainy, loud, but clear enough. Emily, unmistakably her, pressed against someone else in a club or a hotel room, kissing him like she hadn't kissed me in months. Laughing, wild and reckless, like I didn't exist. I watched it once, then again, and again. I didn't need a longer video. I didn't need context. It was all there, in her body language, in the ease with which she'd become someone I didn't recognize. I set the phone down. Sabrina messaged again, "I'm sorry. I didn't know how else to tell you." I didn't respond. What was there to say? It was over. The guessing, the hoping, the wondering if I was just being paranoid. Everything I tried to ignore for the past week had just slammed into me like a freight train. Emily wasn't the woman I thought I married. She was coming home tomorrow, and I was done waiting. I didn't sleep that night. The video played in my head on loop, whether I wanted it to or not. Her hands, her laugh, her lips on someone else. Not just the betrayal, but how easily, how casually she moved through it. Like we were already over in her mind. Like I was some distant thing she used to care about. By morning, I wasn't angry. I was clear. I knew what I needed to do. First, I called her sister. Anna had always been a little flirtier than Emily liked. There was always some mild tension there. Nothing overt. But I caught the way Emily rolled her eyes when Anna lingered too long at family dinners or leaned in too close. I never acted on it. Until now. I called, and she picked up immediately. "I know about Emily," I said, "and I need a favor." She didn't hesitate. It didn't take much. A couple hours later, she was at the house. And I didn't force anything. It just happened. We were adults. Hurt once. Used once. But we both knew exactly what it was. It wasn't love. It was closure of a different kind. I made sure the camera was rolling. Afterward, I saved the video, compressed the file, and sent it to Emily's phone with a message that read, "I know everything." That was it. Then I walked upstairs and started tearing her side of the closet apart. Every pair of shoes, every dress, every box, every half-used bottle of perfume. I shoved them all into trash bags and threw them out the bedroom window. One by one, loud and clumsy and absolutely intentional. She texted once during her layover. "On my way home. Can't wait to see you, Red Heart." I didn't answer. By the time she got home later that evening, the front lawn looked like a donation center exploded on it. Her bags were waiting for her on the steps. Her key didn't work. I had changed the locks. She knocked, then banged, then called. Again and again. I stood just behind the curtain and watched her read the message. Watched her see the video. She dropped her phone. She screamed something I couldn't hear. I turned and walked away. That was the last time I saw her in person. She tried calling. Sent paragraphs of texts. Blamed the alcohol. Said it meant nothing. Begged. Apologized. Swore she'd change. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because finally, I was done being the fool in her story. I was writing my own now. The first few days after she left were surprisingly quiet. Not just around the house, but in my head. I had expected anger to stick around longer, expected bitterness to keep digging its teeth into me. But instead, there was just space. A kind of eerie stillness I hadn't felt in months. The constant tension, the second-guessing, the wondering, it was all gone. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't have to brace for anything. I didn't have to wonder what version of her I was going to get. I didn't have to pretend I didn't notice her pulling away. I cleaned the house from top to bottom, not because it needed it, but because I needed it. I needed to wipe the last traces of her out of the space we once shared. I boxed up what little of hers remained. Things she never thought to take, or maybe just assumed she'd come back for. I dropped it off at her sister's place without saying a word. Anna didn't ask any questions. She just took the box and nodded. I started going out more. Not bars or parties, just back into the world. I reconnected with a few friends I'd quietly distanced myself from during my marriage. Funny how quickly people show up when they know you're hurting, even if you never said a word. My buddy Kevin got me back into hiking. Every Saturday morning, we'd hit a trail before sunrise, barely talking, just moving. It felt good to sweat, to breathe fresh air, to feel my body again. And then, there was Lauren. She wasn't someone I went looking for. We met at a bookstore of all places, both reaching for the same paperback on a shelf neither of us really wanted. She laughed. I offered it to her. and we ended up talking about everything except books for the next hour. She was different from Emily in every possible way: calm, curious, observant. She listened more than she spoke, and when she did speak, it was always honest. There was no performance, no persona, no undercurrent of manipulation, just presence. I didn't tell her everything right away. How could I? But when I did, she didn't flinch. She didn't try to give me advice. She just sat across from me, let me get it out, and then asked, softly, "And what do you want now?" That was the question that stayed with me. What did I want now? Not revenge, not pity, just peace. And maybe someone who saw me not as an accessory to their life, but as someone worth choosing every day, without lies. Lauren didn't fix me, but she reminded me that I wasn't broken. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. Some people say time heals all wounds. I don't know if I fully believe that. I think time gives you distance. It softens things, makes the edges less sharp. But healing, that part's up to you. And for a while, I didn't know what that would look like for me. I thought maybe it meant forgiving her, or forgetting, or pretending it didn't hurt as much as it did. But healing, I've learned, isn't about forgetting. It's about accepting. It's about looking at the past with clear eyes, not to erase it, but to learn from it without letting it define you. And most of all, it's about giving yourself permission to move forward without dragging the wreckage behind you. I don't think about Emily much anymore. When I do, it's like watching an old movie I've seen 100 times, one I used to love, until I realized how it ended. There's no more anger, just distance, and a quiet kind of understanding that not everything that looks real on the outside is built to last. The video I sent her? I don't regret it. It wasn't about stooping to her level. It was about drawing a line, making sure she understood that I knew, that she couldn't twist it or spin it or lie her way around it. I needed that moment, and I haven't looked back since. Lauren and I still see each other. We're not rushing anything. No declarations. No pressure. Just two people trying to do things right this time. She knows the full story. She doesn't run from it. And maybe that's the most healing part, being seen in all your wreckage and still being met with patience. My house is different now. Cleaner. Calmer. The rooms feel more open, not just because they're emptier, but because they don't carry the weight of secrets. There's music again. Books. Plans that feel exciting instead of exhausting. I don't know what the future holds. I'm not even trying to predict it. But I do know this. I survived something that should have broken me. And instead of bitterness, I've found peace. Instead of chasing answers, I've made room for better questions. Like who I am now, what I want next, and how I can build a life that feels like mine. Not perfect, not picture ready, but real. And finally, that's more than enough.